So as we mentioned before, we are back in 9.2 notes. We are still graphing quadratics. So take just a second, write down what you see, pause it if you need to, and then we will talk about how to graph equations that are in vertex form. Okay, so as you notice, vertex form equations look a little bit different than what we had before. It used to look like ax squared plus bx plus c. Well, now we're going to be setting it up in a different format that eventually we'll be able to graph even without a calculator using this. Okay, so a couple things we need to point out. First of all, vertex comes straight out of the equation. Okay, we won't have to use our calculator to find it anymore because our x is what we call h. He comes right out of the parentheses. And our k, which is our y value, is going to come after the parentheses. So one thing that I need you to make sure you know, and we're going to write it in here, is that when the formula says x minus h, that actually means that it is only what is being subtracted. So if you see something like x minus 4, then what would h be? Well, x minus what? 4. 4 is my h. But if we saw something like x plus 3, that's going to be very different. A lot of people want to say, oh yeah, h is 3. But the problem with that is it's x minus a negative 3. My h is actually a negative 3. So you almost have to think about changing the sign based on what you see. Okay? All right. So my k, on the other hand, k just takes the same number that he sees. So if it said plus 5, we're going to write a positive 5. If it said minus 2, we're going to write a negative 2. Okay? As always, axis of symmetry is your x value. We're just calling it h. As always, your range is going to be compared to your y value in the vertex. We're just calling it k now. It's going to be greater than if our graph's going upward, and it's a minimum. It's going to be a less than if our graph is going down, and that maximum is our vertex. Okay? All right, so most of what we do today is going to be pretty much the same as 9.1. As I told you before, you are going to need to have your parent function memorized. That should be y equals x squared. Eventually, you're going to have that graph and table and answer set memorized. Okay? So if you remember, that should be taking our x's and squaring it. So if I did negative 3 squared, that would be 9. Negative 2 squared would be 4. Negative 1 squared is 1. 0 squared is 0. Then same thing going back the other way. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. That's where our numbers are coming from. Okay, quickly filling these out, what would that vertex be? Well, vertex is our lowest point on this problem, so it's going to be 0, 0. That point is a minimum because it is on the bottom. And then we start stealing numbers. So axis of symmetry, we steal the x. Range is where we steal the y. So we're greater than or equal to our 0. Again, all of this is the same as 9.1. Okay? X-intercepts, it only crosses the x-axis, this guy, one time. It's crossing at 0, 0. Same thing for the y-axis. This graph is only crossing the y-axis one time, and again, that's at 0, 0. Domain is probably our favorite question just because it's always the same thing. It's always going to be all real numbers. Okay, so that one we don't really need a calculator for. The rest of them you are going to be able to use a calculator. But I am going to start expecting you to do the vertex answer out of the equation. Okay, so flip to the next page. All right, I'm going to kind of use black for my k value, and I'm going to use yellow for my h value. H is going to come right out of our parenthesis. Okay, so even before I put it in the calculator, if I look at this problem and I'm saying x minus what? X minus a negative 4. That's my h. Outside of the parentheses is my k. K keeps his sign, so that's going to be a negative 2. Getting those two numbers right now means that that's going to be my vertex. So negative 4 comma negative 2. Okay. If I go ahead and I get that all situated in my calculator, give me just a second to catch you. We're going to type it in exactly how we see it. So parentheses, x plus 4, close parentheses. We're going to be squaring it and then subtracting 2. So again, type it in just like you see it. Now you'll notice that -4, -2 is my vertex. We've learned a new shortcut since the last time I made a video. If you hit Control-T, that will actually do the automatic split table for you on the Inspire calculator. So that's what we're going to be using from now on. All right, so I'm looking for all the numbers in my table that fit. Well, 1, 2, and 3 don't fit because those numbers are giant. So I'm scrolling up. 14 was too big. Looks like this is kind of our zone. Okay, so I'm going to do dots as I go. So -1 goes to 7. -2 goes to 2. -3 goes -1. -4, -2. We already knew that one. Let's get a couple more. -5, -1. -6, 2. And -7, 7. So this is our graph. These are the points that we're stealing off our table. And this is going to let us answer the rest of the questions. So that vertex, that's a minimum because it's on the bottom. Axis of symmetry is going to come right out of that equation. So it's going to be x equals a -4. I'm going to skip x-intercepts for just a second. My y-intercept, I cannot see it on my screen. I can't see it over here on my x-axis or y-axis, I'm sorry. So we're going to have to find that one over here in the table. So what I'm going to do is scroll back down. And I'm going to see 0 goes to where? Because that's a y-intercept. 0, comma what? It's going to be 0, comma 14. I just got that right out of the table. Okay. Domain is always all real numbers. And my range comes from the vertex. So y is greater than or equal to, grab my number, taking it all the way from up here. So y is greater than or equal to -2. All right. Now, when it comes to finding x-intercepts, we're going to have to do some highlighting. So I'm going to do Control-T, get rid of my table, and I'm going to analyze my graph. So menu, analyze, I'm going to find the zeros this time. So I have 2 of them. I'm going to find the first one, my x-intercept over on here. So it looks like it's -5.41. Let's write that down. -5.41, comma 0. And I have another one, so we're going to do it again. Menu, analyze, find the 0. I'm going across the second one. Let me go ahead and grab that. So -2.59, comma 0. And that is it for that final question. Remember on the graph, you can always click, hold when it grabs the hand, and just kind of move it where you need it. So this was my negative. This one was my left side. Okay. Alrighty, we're going to go on to problem 3. I'm going to go ahead and delete those guys off of here, and we're going to go back and edit this equation in just a second. All right, so on problem 3, first thing let's talk about is what is my h and my k. So my h comes out of the parenthesis, my k comes off the end. So x minus what? X minus 2. That's my h. K comes off the outside of the parentheses, so that's going to be a +3. Vertex should be 2, comma 3. All right, so let's get that guy typed in. So negative, doing x minus 2. We're squaring it, and then +3. Graph should look like this. So if I hit Control and T, let's split the graph in our table. Let's see what we can put on paper. All right, so it looks like everything on the screen fits. I'm going to go up first. Let's just see what we'll take. Okay, so -1, -6. 0, -1. 1, comma 2. 2, comma 3. And then I think it's going to go right back down. Yeah, 3, comma 2. 4, -1. And 5, -6. Again, I'm copying all these numbers right out of my table. I'm not making them up. I'm pulling the numbers that fit, putting them right on the graph. So that vertex, this time it's on the top, so that's a maximum. Axis of symmetry is coming right out of my vertex as the x number. Again, I don't have my x-intercept, so we'll do that in just a second. Y-intercept I have, that's 0, -1. That's this point right here. Domain is all real numbers. And my range comes out of the vertex. So y is less than this time, because it's going down, less than or equal to 3. All right, so let's go ahead and get our 2 x-intercepts. I'm going to do Control-T, just get rid of that table. We're going to analyze the graph again. We're finding zeros, x-intercepts. So I'm going to highlight 1 over here. And then I'm going to do menu 6, 1. Highlight this other one over here. All right, so we got 2 answers. We have 0.2, I'm rounding, 0.27, comma 0. And then 3.730. All right, that is all set for number 3. If you would, go ahead and flip the page. We're going to hit 4 and 5. All right, number 4, we're adding a few more things this time. So now we've got a number going on outside of the parentheses before it. That's okay. You are still going to be able to type that in just like we were before. So starting with h and k. K is outside, h is inside. X minus what? X minus a negative 1. K is going to be a positive 2. So we have negative 1, comma 2. If I type this in, I'm going to go ahead and set up a fraction. Control divide, let's do 1/2. Whoops. 1/2. And then my parentheses. Again, I'm just typing in exactly what I see on my paper. Here is my new equation. Now, this one's going to look funky because we're going to have some decimals in our table. Basically, as soon as we hit Control-T, we're going to have some decimals in here. You have to graph those decimals. Okay, so let's graph what fits first. All right, so we've got 310. I'm going to go ahead and put that one on there, even though it's a little high. 2 is going to go to 6.5, so just kind of halfway between 6 and 7. 1 is going to go to 4. 0 goes to 2.5. Negative 1 goes to 2, and it looks like we're climbing down and then right back up. Negative 2 is 2.5. Negative 3 is 4. Negative 4 is 6.5. And negative 5 is 10. I think. Yes, 10. All right, so we've got a lot more dots this time. They're a lot closer together, and they are decimals, but that is okay. Question's still going to get answered the same. It's still a minimum. Axis of symmetry still comes straight out of the vertex. We don't have any x-intercepts this time, so we're going to say none. Y-intercept, we have it. In case you don't remember what it was at 2.5. So 0, 2.5. Domain is always the same. And my range comes out of my vertex. So that's actually a very easy question. There just happen to be more dots in that problem. Okay. All right, I'm going to have you go ahead and put number 5 in your calculator. And let's talk about that problem. So the h is coming out of the parentheses. So we're doing x minus what? It's a 3. K comes out of the outside. That's a 1. So our vertex is at 3, 1. Let's go ahead and get this guy typed in. So 2, x minus 3, we are squaring it. And then adding 1. Let's open up our table and see what we can put on here. All right, it looks like everything that I see is pretty much going to be what fits. So if we start with 1, 9, and kind of just hit the ones that we can. So we got 3, 3, 1, 4, 3, 5, 9. So not as many points this time. All right, this time that vertex that's at 3, 1, he is a minimum. X equals 3, we take the x number. Again, I have no x-intercepts. But I can't see my y-intercept. See how it doesn't hit the y-axis? Let's use our table. So if I go up one more click, 0 would have actually taken us all the way up here, high up to 19. So we're going to write 0, 19. Domain is always the same. Range comes from the vertex. So y is greater than or equal to the number 1. If you'll write that one down, we got 2 more questions to hit. I'll meet you on the next page. All right, number 6 is the first time that this starts to look really weird because we have an h coming out of the parentheses, but we don't have a k this time. So when I say x minus what, we know -2. But I want you to make a note on this one. When there's no number after the parentheses, that's when we say k is 0. Okay? So our point is -2, 0. And that's going to be where our vertex is. So I'm going to go ahead and delete, put my new equation back in. Got a negative out front, an x plus 2 inside, and we are squaring that on the outside. All right, let's get our table. Ooh, those numbers are really big. So let's scroll up and see if we can fit a couple things. All right, so it looks like we're fitting 1, -9, 0, -4, -1, -1, -2, 0, -3, -1, -4, -4, -5, -9. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and connect those dots. And this one should be super smooth. So we have a maximum. That vertex is on the top. Axis of symmetry, steal the x. X equals -2. X-intercepts, we only have 1, and it happens to be a perfect number, so we're good. No highlighting. Y-intercept, we hit at -4, so 0, -4. Domain is all real numbers, and the range comes from the vertex. Pretty smooth question. All right, we have one more. If ever you need more time, go ahead and pause it, copy it down, but we are on to number 7. On number 7, this one's going to be a little bit tricky also, just because we don't have any parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type this one in while I'm sitting here on the calculator. But when you look at this one, I want us to make a note. There are no parentheses. So if I say x minus what, I'm not subtracting anything. It's just a 0. Do I have a number at the end of my equation though? Yes, that's where the -3 comes in. So we have no yellow, we just have our k on the outside. Okay, so 0, -3, that's going to be my vertex. Let's go ahead and get this guy graphed. So Control T. All right, it looks like that 13 is too big, so we're only going to be able to fit a couple. Let's get 3, 6, 2, 1, 1, -2, 0, -3, -1, -2, -2, 1, and -3, 6. Those are my points. Sorry, that line got a little curvy. That's okay. All right, my vertex 0, -3 is a minimum. Axis of symmetry, we steal the x number. X-intercepts, I'm going to skip because we're going to have some highlighting that has to be done on that one. Okay, Y-intercepts, I have that. 0, -3. It's actually my vertex also. Domain is going to be all real numbers, and my range steals the y number. So we're greater than or equal to that -3. All right, you can kind of see the dots are already on here. It's telling you that you need to find the 0. Okay, so we're going to do menu, analyze the 0, tracing over that guy. Let me move him out of the way. We're going to go again. Menu, analyze the 0, highlight over that. We get our second answer. So let's write that out. We got -1.73, comma 0, and positive 1.73, comma 0. All right, you are all set for 9.2 notes. Good luck. Again, remember, if you have the other calculator, you are going to want to go ahead and check in with your teacher. Make sure that you know how to do that with other methods.